Thank you. Now listen, if I read this whole bio, then we'd have to go home, because it would be too much, and I'll save it for Mike.
We may still have to go home.
Jill was a member of the volleyball team that we went undefeated for 1976. Seems like a long time ago, doesn't it? Because we went undefeated, we were invited to go to Poland. We had a choice to go 2 weeks or 3 weeks. We picked 2 weeks, and if anybody hears Polish, I'm not going to say any more about the trip, but I think I would pick 3 weeks. Anyway, it was an experience, one I'm sure Jill will never forget. We had a winning record because we had great players like Jill. She went on to play, during the league, we made the Housatonic League. During the year, we made the Housatonic League in 1978. Jill also played for Boston College and was captain during her sophomore and junior year. Her teaching degree took her to many places and devoted her entire career to education. She became an assistant principal in 2013 to 2021. I can't be any more proud of Jill as I am today. Jill Fontanes.
Well, that was really nice, and isn't it fun to go first? Thank you to the Cheshire Alumni Association for selecting me as a recipient of the Cheshire High School Alumni Recognition. I'm humbled and honored to be asked. To say I was surprised was an understatement. One of my best friends said to me, "You make great cookies and we love you, but why were you picked?" And I had to say, honestly, I don't know. I was not feeling very worthy, so I called my youngest brother, Ricky, who sometimes seems wise beyond his years, and he convinced me all I needed to say was thank you. Sometimes that's the best answer. When you accept your nomination, you need to make a resume, which is kind of like writing your obituary as you review your life and accomplishments. So I guess I should say thank you for not waiting until I am dead. As I started to review my life, I realized that like most people, I've had triumphs and I've had tragedy, but mostly I've had love. I can feel my girlfriends rolling their eyes right now. I'm not talking about romantic love, although I'm thankful to be with someone I respect and love for almost 37 years. I'm talking about family love, friendship love, and community love. Throughout my life, I've been surrounded by love, and I don't take it for granted. Every step of the way through my life, my parents, my grandparents, my aunts, my uncles, my brothers, their wives, nieces, nephews, cousins, my husband and daughter have celebrated love together. Whether it's been birthdays, graduations, vacations, or funerals, we've been together to support each other, and I am so thankful for each and every one of them. Each one has brought something special into my life. I'm also grateful to be surrounded by friends who have supported me through the ups and downs of life. They've been with me through the best of times and the most difficult of times, loving me through it all. And sometimes they will not talk about because I have worse things on them. Today I have my girlfriends, Kathy and Woody, with me. I've known them since 3rd and 4th grade. Again, I'm so thankful to have them in my life. And lastly, community love seems like such a weird concept until you lose a brother or you live through a school tragedy and everyone shows up for your family. Whether it's a card, a call, bringing a meal, or just listening to you. That is love. I'm thankful for that love, and I hope that I give as much as I have received. This CHS gathering is love to me. I look around this room and I see my past teachers and coaches, God bless you, my friends, my neighbors, and my family. I so appreciate being selected because it gives me this chance to say to the entire Cheshire community, thank you for this honor and the love you have bestowed upon me.
Mary Buckeye. Mary graduated from Cheshire High School in 1998. She was a class president for 4 years and a star on the soccer and softball field. She was also on the basketball team and quarterbacked the Powder Puff football Thanksgiving Day game. As a captain of both soccer and softball, Mary was a natural athlete and a true leader on the field and in the classroom. She was inducted into the National Honor Society, chosen to represent Cheshire at Connecticut Girls School State, and noted in Who's Who among American high school students. Mary earned the Record Journal's Scholar Athlete Award and the SEC Conference Scholar Leader Award. A 4-year starter at shortstop under legendary coach Wayne Candela, Mary's talents on both sides of the ball stood out upon her arrival at CHS. Throughout her illustrious 4 years, she was named All-Hoosie, New Haven Register's All-Area and All-State Hartford Current Player of the Year. In her 3rd season with the Rams, Mary set the record for the highest batting average ever. She had the most hits in a season ever at Cheshire High School as a female. She went 44 for 78, batting .564 her junior year, which is pretty incredible. So she had 78 at bats, had 44 hits and 78 at bats. And Billy's here. We never had a kid like that. We never had that. So, following her graduation from Cheshire High School, Mary received a softball scholarship to attend Siena College. It's an NCAA Division I program. She was a shortstop. She was a 4-year starter for the Saints. And she served as a captain and a 3-time MAC all-academic first-team selection. So you could hit, and you hit the books too. So career highlights include capping her junior season. At the end of that season, a 13-game hitting streak, in leading the team in triples, sacrifices, assists. Mary served as Siena's Student Athlete Advisory Committee President, and she was a 21st Century Leader Society inductee and graduated from Siena College with a bachelor's degree in business. After graduation, Mary was accepted for a full-time position in Bristol, Connecticut at their headquarters for ESPN.com. She was a writer and editor for 10 years, including relocations to LA and San Diego. In the summer of 2011, while living in LA, she wrote a story for ESPN.com about a Swiss expedition explorer. The article was recognized by Adweek as the most original sports piece, and Mary subsequently was offered a full-time position as the director of public relations for the Swiss Alps for the said expedition explorer. She accepted and moved to Switzerland, and then on contract completion, Mary found what she describes as her forever home job in the creative department for the renowned and peak performance speaker, Mr. Tony Robbins. Mary currently serves as Chief Communications Officer, right arm, and host of the Tony Robbins podcast. She resides in Palm Beach, Florida, with her family and their 3-year-old daughter. So Mary, congratulations.
Thank you, Mike. I just need to breathe for a minute, because I don't know if it's the long walk up here, or to be honest, my heart is pounding, and I just want to take it in and look at all these faces. I can't, it's just such a trip to see you guys. Mr. Zingarello was my history teacher, Mr. Brill was my science teacher, Mr. Lewalk took me to homecoming, but we just called him Tommy back then. Dr. Gallagher, thank you. It's just, what I'm trying to say is the loyalty. I'm struck by the loyalty that has you guys all coming back year after year. Teachers, coaches, alumni, parents in the room, my friends and teammates. Just everything that makes this Cheshire community so special, and it feels like coming home to a family reunion or something. I haven't been here in years, and yet the AquaTurf, the food's the same. It's like I never left, and it's been 20 years. So there's really something comforting about being together with you today. And on my way here, I had to take the scenic route, and I went down Wallingford Road, and I drove past my family's old home. And I gotta tell you guys, I teared up just looking at it, because there's so much emotion in this town for me, and just all the joy that I had with my mom and dad and my brothers and sisters. everyone at Cheshire High School. It's just, there's nothing like it. The memories, it's like one big drive down memory lane, Route 10, you know? The Cheshire Soccer Club fields aren't far away. Kate Dawson, thank you for being here. We played on those fields when we were like 5 years old. And everything, I drove past Cheshire Park and I thought about my mom lugging her folding chair from like the parking lot by the basketball courts all the way over to those fields, bless her heart. And I was the only girl in that league. And so I'm sure it was just pure agita from my mom watching me on the mound. But I loved it, and I'm so grateful to my parents and everyone here for giving what I've thought of my whole life as just the Cheshire advantage. Because as Mike said, I've had the privilege to travel the world extensively at this stage of my life. And when I tell people about this community and the school and like just the little just the dynamic learning exercises that you teachers, Mr. Brill, Mr. Z, you guys provided for us, it is like a dream for most people. It is so idyllic, and I don't take that for granted. That is not lost on me, and I'm so grateful that it prepared me. Like, honestly, I probably shouldn't say this, especially to my Sienna graduates back there with me, but I struggle to remember one thing from college that I actually use in my life professionally, but like the stuff from Cheshire is like seared in there. I'm still walking around with it. I can't seem to shake it. And you know, I have some notes scribbled down here, and there was one thing that I wanted to mention, because when the email pinged me from Dr. Gallagher that said, you know, subject Hall of Fame, I remember the moment, and in that moment I thought of two people that I wanted to share this day with, my mom and Mr. Wayne Candela. And yeah, and they were both still alive when I first got that email from Dr. Gallagher. And I actually had to defer that year because I can't remember, I was either pregnant with our daughter or on a business trip in Abu Dhabi, or both, and I couldn't make it to that trip. And so I had to defer to 2024, and I just think like they could have been here, and I feel them here. So that's the real truth. I feel them everywhere we go, and I just, I have to say, again, thanks for the ovation for Mr. Candela there, because there was, Andrew Oberlander, Tara Plord, my softball teammates, there was no one like him. And I think for me, I'm so grateful. I think high school actually could have been a really rough go for me. I was a big nerd, friendly as the day is long, but I was a nerd. And I just felt such love and kindness and all the confidence that I have. I swear, Wayne was just like my guy, and he loved me like no other. I was just 4 feet of bangs and front teeth and big feet, and it didn't matter. Candyman just took such care of us, and all you excellent teachers, I can't say it enough. It's not hyperbole, it's not an exaggeration. All the confidence that I have is from like this one niche of athletic and scholastic something, wind in my sails that continues to carry me around today, and I thank you for that. And so there's one thing that I wanted to share. If you remember nothing else I've said, and I'm sure you won't, so one word I want you guys to walk away with. It's called a U-curve. It sounds like something that maybe Mr. Maroka would have taught us in those brutal chemistry exams. But it's not, it's just as simple. It's a U-curve. Here I was at Cheshire High School, and I thought life couldn't get any better. I was flying high, decorated athlete, class president, and I thought, mistakenly, that life would just kind of keep on that trajectory. I thought, this is progress. It's going to be a straight line. It's not a straight line. It's like I went to college, and first of all, there was no Wayne Candela, and then I broke my ankle, and I did all right, but not by the expectations that I had set for myself. And then you get in your 20s, and you're working so hard, as you should when you're 20, and as you should when you're 30, and somewhere between like 1998 and 40 years old, I was like, what's going on? Where'd I go? What happened? And I read this statistic from the pride of New Haven, Yale University, that says, okay, all you have to do is this one thing. This is our U-curve. If all we do is reframe getting older, think about aging as it's no longer a negative thing. It's no longer the best years are behind me. It's no longer my days are gone, my glory days are in the past. All we have to do is think, hey, I'm getting kinder, I'm getting wiser, I'm easier in my own skin now. I'm getting more comfortable with myself. That's how we look at aging. And we're guaranteed not only better cognitive function and mobility, We lose plaque in our brain. Our guaranteed, they said, this study showed 7.5 extra years of life. I tell you that because I hope you all do that because I know what beautiful human beings we have assembled in this room. I hope you all live long, beautiful lives. Let's think that our best years are still left to come because I can't get these Cheshire High School glory days back. I bend over to brush my teeth and my back hurts. But I still believe that the best is yet to come, and I'm so grateful for it all. I'm honored to be here with you guys. Thank you teachers, thank you staff. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see everyone, and it's really an absolute honor and pleasure to be here today. Thank you to the Cheshire High School Alumni Committee and to my fellow inductees. It's a privilege to share this moment and this day with you all. As I've had some time to reflect on this award, particularly as a team sport athlete, it's hard for me not to feel like this should be a collective team award. It's very safe to say that I would not be standing up here today if it were not for the team that has supported me throughout my athletic and life journeys, including a small handful of whom are here with me today. And I absolutely need to thank and recognize that community, so thank you for bearing with me. I must start at the beginning, and that's certainly with my mom and dad. Excuse me. Like most things in life, my success in the athletic fields was built on the foundation that was laid and poured at home. As a parent myself now, hi Lucy, hi Jamie, hi Scotty, I have even more appreciation for the incredibly good fortune I had being born to my two parents. Thank you both for all that you did to afford me the opportunities to play the games that I loved and all the amazing experiences that came along with them. I hope Eliza and I, my wife, can live up to the high bar that you've set for us. Very quickly, I'll tell a quick story because I think it helps add some context to how I wound up here today. Funny enough, I was introduced to Cheshire High School athletics when my dad, Rich, who had never played or coached the sport of lacrosse, mind you, was asked in the late 1980s, for those of you keeping score at home, I was around 6 or 7 at the time, by then varsity coach Paul Adams to coach the JV team. I would then, join my dad for the occasional road trip on the varsity bus, and those road trips left an indelible impression on me. To this day, I can remember the music, the camaraderie amongst teammates, and the fresh aroma of the equipment, believe it or not. Most importantly, I can remember the passion and friendships that were forged by the players, galvanized by their collective desire to win and put Cheshire on the map. I walked away from those experiences quite certain on a couple of fronts. First, I couldn't wait to wear the Cheshire red and white. And second, I really didn't want to come up short if I had anything I could say about it. As the oldest in my family, my parents also typically had my 2 siblings in tow. So to my sister and brother, Dana and Todd, thank you. Thank you for sucking it up on all the road trips, shagging endless amounts of balls, embracing your automatic goalie and tackling dummy responsibilities, and for everything else you sacrificed for me. I'd also be remiss not to acknowledge something else that's given me immense pleasure, and that's been watching you both and what you've achieved on the athletic fields and in life yourselves. I would argue those accomplishments go well beyond my own, and I'm looking forward to the role reversal soon enough. I'm so proud of you guys both. Moving beyond my family, everyone in here can appreciate how important coaching is to the development of any team or player, and I'm certainly no exception. So to my youth coaches, of which there are too many to list individually, thank you for showing me the way, letting me fail, and encouraging me to dust myself off and to keep going. To my high school coaches, namely at the varsity level, and Coach Ecke and Coach Peluciano especially, your impact on me was immeasurable. Almost as importantly, though, are the staffs and sub-varsity coaches supporting those head coaches, which included legends like Coach Trafone, who's sitting here with us today, Coach Lee Bailey, Coach Eric Bailey, Coach Dempsey, Coach Krutz, Coach Garlock, and the list goes on and on. I know I've left a few names out, but they all molded me into the person and athlete that I've become today, and I'm so appreciative of the sacrifice and investment they all made in order to do so. Finally, to my teammates, a big thanks. Some people may forget, and I certainly do not, that there were plenty of better players on the special CHS teams that I was a part of. Without everyone contributing and building off one another, we would never have been able to accomplish what we did together. Similarly to Mary's sentiments, when I've compared notes with my friends and teammates across the years, one thing that's continuously stood out to me about my experience at Cheshire High School was the shared respect and appreciation that we all had for those who came before us. For those who established the hard-nosed and blue-collar mentality that still defines what Cheshire Athletics is today. So a big thank you to all those who came before. We stood on your shoulders, and I always did my best to leave it out there for you all. In closing, the experiences that sports have afforded me have quite literally changed my life. Whether that be the opportunity to attend and graduate Dartmouth College, to travel the country to play for Major League Lacrosse, or to don the jerseys of some of the country's most prestigious athletic clubs. I'm still in awe at the people I've met and the connections I've made. But what really stands out are the memories and the immense joy it has all brought to my life. I hope I can always find ways to stay involved in athletics, particularly those in Cheshire and at Cheshire High School, so that as many other kids can have the same chances that I've had to have as much fun as I've had along the way. So thank you again. I'm so flattered by this recognition. It really is a recognition of all those who supported me to get to this podium today. This is your award just as much as it is mine. I'm forever a Ram. Beat Southington, beat Prep, and I hope to see you on the sideline soon. Go Rams.
Brad, the good news is that this year we beat Southington, and in lacrosse we beat Prep. Good afternoon. In 2003, I was named the athletic director at the high school. The greatest thing that ever happened to me was Cheshire Herald hired a young, upcoming sports reporter named Greg Lederer. Those of you who have been to a sports event in the past 20 years have probably seen Greg Lederer on the sidelines. He goes to every event. And it's amazing because everybody thought there were 2 or 3 of them because he's always on everything. He really became a passion of Cheshire sports. He knows statistics. I'm sure, Mary, he knows all of your stats, even though he wasn't here when you were here. And if you ask him about any game during his career here, he'll exactly know what the stats are. He became so much loved by the athletes that he's a sports reporter that gets invited to banquets, pasta dinners, and if you look at any of our pictures of state championships, probably Greg Lederer was in that picture. So, a little bit about Greg. He's been supporting Cheshire athletes since 2003, as I mentioned, and from 2003 from 2003 to 2023, he was the sports editor and feature writer for the Cheshire Herald. He's covered countless Cheshire High School games, races, contests, providing Cheshire athletes with unparalleled news coverage. He has kept track of numerous student athlete statistics, coaches, records, and CHS team accomplishments. In addition to the CHS athletic reporting, Greg has covered many Cheshire High community events and resident accomplishments. He's earned the following accolades throughout his career as a sports reporter. He's a 6-time New England Newspaper and Press Association honoree. He's a 2-time Cheshire High School Booster Club Distinguished Service Award. He is also awarded the Cheshire Community YMCA Youth Development Award in 2019. In 2024, Greg started his own Cheshire Sports website as the Cheshire Herald changed some of their policies and Greg moved on to other things. So he still continues to write for Cheshire Sports, and he'll continue with that. Prior to his media career, Greg graduated from Cheshire High School in Hershey, Pennsylvania. He attended Western Maryland College in Westminster, Maryland, and after graduation, he came to us in Cheshire. For all that he has done for our high school and for the town's sports, we, as the Alumni Association, are proud to honor him a Founders Award and to the Cheshire Alumni Association. So Greg, come on up.
Well, first off, the interesting thing was, Steve mentioned that Cheshire Community YMCA Youth Development Award when I received that, so I thought I had to write a speech for that, right? So I get up to the lectern and they tell me, oh no, you just have to take a photo. So I'm like, okay. But I guess this time I actually have to make a speech. So I will really follow through with that. First, I want to say thank you to the Cheshire High School Alumni Association for this honor. You know, for 21 years at CHS, I've taken the walk down the hallway to the athletic office. And I walked by all these plaques are all up there on the wall. And you know, in the past, I always wondered if there was a porter up there or could end up there. So I'm humbled to join this special company of graduates and founder honorees. You know, next, I want to congratulate my fellow inductees this year. I know multiple of these honorees and have spoken to them for multiple stories. They have done great things inside and out of Cheshire. In the case of one of our honorees to come, Katie Stack Morgan, she actually works on the Mars rover project. She could say she has actually had an impact on our planet, which is pretty amazing. Let's have a hand for that, ladies. You know, when I was crafting this speech, I knew it was going to be hard to talk about a lot of people because I met so many over the last 21 years. First, I want to thank my family. My brother and sister couldn't be here today, but I appreciate them every day. My parents have actually come here from Wisconsin, so can we have a round of applause for them? Thank you for your love and support over the years and for supporting this career that I've undertaken in Cheshire. Next, I want to thank guest speaker, Mr. Steve Trefone. My first season, as he mentioned, working in Cheshire was actually Steve's first year as CHS athletic director. At home, I actually have a Cheshire Herald photo from when Steve presented me with my first plaque in the CHS Booster Club, so it's interesting to see how time flies on. I can't thank him enough for his help over the years. Even though he retired last year, it's still good to see him and his family at Cheshire events. I'm also very appreciative of his successor, John Parasino. CHS is in very good hands athletically and as well as in the classroom with his leadership. I also want to thank all of the athletes, coaches, administrators, and families I've spoken to over the years for stories. I'm honored for the trust you've given me to tell your stories and your life experiences. I want to thank all of the journalism co-workers and publishers I've had. I'm a better writer and storyteller today for your guidance and example. I've received a lot of honors over the years, but for me this plaque right here is special because of its connection to CHS alumni. I've enjoyed covering countless individuals and families over the years for stories, and it's been great to see them develop into outstanding individuals in and out of this community. You know, back in 2003, I went to the Hampton Public Library looking to find a job in the newspaper, and I spotted that they were looking for a sports reporter for the Cheshire Herald. I was excited to be hired there and was quickly amazed by the support I immediately received from those in the Cheshire community. You know, however, when I traveled outside town, different communities, I encountered a perception of weekly newspapers. Some people were surprised that a weekly newspaper actually went to a live event and they could just make phone calls on it, or didn't think that was necessarily a priority, that the Cheshire Herald was a smaller organization. I didn't understand that at the time because I knew the people I worked with worked just as hard as people in bigger organizations, and they cared just as much as they did about the product that they put out. In reflection on that, I think it was a blessing for me because it gave me something to strive for. I thought I had worked hard, but I knew that I had to work even harder because it wasn't just about me. For the town of Cheshire, I want people to know that you could do great work no matter the size of your organization. From then to now, I feel that the hardworking people of Cheshire deserve that kind of dedication. This is a special community that I care deeply about. I enjoyed working at the Cheshire Herald and RG Media Group for 20 years. This year's obviously brought changes. I'm excited to chance to start my own news company, Cheshire Sports Media, www.cheshiresportsmedia. Has launched online, and we will continue to tell local stories that I've done in the last 20 years. I'll have more information on that in the next week. Over the years, I've been told that one of my strengths is I pick people up instead of tearing them down. In our world today, I feel it's important to know that there are those who generally want to see them succeed in life and in their work as well. Thank you for your time today, and all the best to you, your family, and friends. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'd like to start by thanking the Hall of Fame Committee for inviting me here today to talk about my good friend Peter Mazza. I'm Mike Votto Jr., class of 1996, and Pete was one of my closest friends growing up. One of our other great friends is also here today, Andy Braley, who will factor into some of my later remarks. The committee gave me a strict time allotment, and I'll do my best to stick to it. And what I don't want to do is use my time to tell you about Pete's considerable resume and accomplishments, because you already know about those, or you can find them in today's program. No, what I'd like to do is tell you about my friend and our life growing up in the wonderful community of Cheshire in the 1990s. Long before Pete went to Yale and Michigan Law School and became a federal prosecutor, married his beautiful wife Megan and had 3 kids. And I'm also so happy that his dad is here, Mr. Doc Mazza, who I haven't seen in a long, long time. Also really happy to see Coach Maroka. Congratulations, Coach, who was Pete's baseball coach, and Coach Trifone, who was a young position coach on the football team when Pete and I were playing there. Pete and I first bonded as 7th graders at Dodd Middle School when we were 2 of only 4 underclassmen to make the varsity basketball team, the 8th grade team. 2 things are really ironic about that. The first is we bonded in part because the now esteemed Mr. Kelly and his 8th grade teammates were ruthless to us, and so we had to stick together as 7th graders. The second thing that's really ironic about that is about basketball bringing Pete and I together is that basketball was just about the only thing Pete wasn't very good at. He was sure he was bigger and stronger and more athletic than almost everybody else, but that lefty jump shot just wasn't as natural as throwing a football or a baseball or skiing, where he was just unstoppable. At Cheshire High School, Pete was a leader on the field and in the classroom. He was a tremendous football and baseball player, and I don't remember for sure, but I'm sure he took all honors level classes, and I remember that he was in our student government. Pete was smart and mature and seemingly wise beyond his years. He loved to hang out and have fun, but also had a level of seriousness about him that is uncommon for teenage boys. There was a special presence about him for as long as I can remember. He got a lot of that from his mom, who was really smart and a tough lady and had a strong presence about her as well. We went to house parties together. We snuck our first beer together, which was probably at Stephen Bowman's house. We took pride in our shared Italian-American heritage. We went to Mass at St. Bridget's before football films on Sunday mornings, and we flirted with girls since we thought we were the kings of the town as 17-year-old hotshots. We bombed around in Pete's black Jeep with chrome siding that had no doors and no passenger side seatbelt, which was certainly not ideal as I think about it now. In the summer of 1993, we were high school sophomores, and Andy and I painted my uncle's house. Both of our dads had painting jobs when they were kids. We learned that we liked to paint and that we could make good money, so we invited Pete to join us. We formed our own company, which we called VMB Painting Professionals, after the first initials of our last names. Incredible as it seems, we ran VMB every summer for the next 7 years, all the way through high school and college. It was one of the great experiences of our lives, and we had a lot of adventures. This one is perhaps my favorite. One summer we painted a basement in Shelton. I have no idea how we got the job, but even back then we were pretty good networkers, and we pushed our parents to help us secure jobs. And this was a really nice big basement, and it had a little bathroom in the corner. And so we were painting. We painted the basement with flat paint, and we painted the bathroom with semi-gloss paint. And what do you know, we're 99% done with the job, and we realized that we didn't have a single drop of flat paint left, and there was one little section of the wall we hadn't gotten to. So we huddled up just like we did when we were playing sports together, and we said, you know what, let's just paint that little corner with the semi-gloss. There's no way these homeowners will ever notice. So we wrap up the job. We left a note saying we'd stop by the following week and collect payment when we were back in the area. Next week comes and we go see the owner. We go into the basement, and she was like, oh, we noticed this and that and blah, blah, blah. And she turns and she goes, and we noticed that that corner looks shinier than the rest of the basement. We honestly couldn't believe it. We almost fell to the ground. Before I could even formulate a thought, Pete says, well, Mrs. Johnson, you see, we did that little corner last, and it's probably shiny because it's still drying. How Andy and I held it together, I'll never know, since the paint had been dry for a week. Well, what do you know? Mrs. Johnson took it hook, line, and sinker, and in retrospect, it makes perfect sense, since Pete had such a presence about him and such conviction. The only other thing I can tell you is the minute we got out of the house, we exploded with laughter, and I'll never forget that moment as long as I live. Andy and I had just witnessed Pete's acumen on his feet, which I'm certain is exactly how he was in the courtroom many years later. In 1996, I stumbled across a stack of our first business cards in my parents' basement. I framed 3 of them, one for my office and one for Andy and Pete. I sent it to them as a surprise Christmas present. When Pete received it, he sent me back a wonderful email. He said, "My package just arrived. I will cherish this. What an amazing gift. You are a great friend. The VMB business card is already on the shelf in my office." One thing that struck me is back then we didn't even use area codes, which shows we were strictly 203 guys. Great business card though. I can still remember those projects better than half the cases I worked at the DOJ. Man, that was fun. What's really funny is that the 3 of us that started this little venture at Cheshire High School as 16-year-old students all ended up playing college sports, going to law school, and cheering each other on in our careers. I've got one other quick story about Pete that is so vivid in my mind nearly 30 years later, and this is more of a serious than a funny one. As some of you know, Pete was not originally scheduled to go to prep school and then Yale. A few weeks after we graduated Cheshire High School, Pete left to enroll at the United States Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. You have to remember that in 1996, there was no cell phones, email addresses, or internet, so when Andy and I said goodbye to him, we really didn't know the next time that we'd get to see him or talk to him even. So I was very surprised a week or 2 later when my mom answered our house phone and told me Pete was on the line. I picked up and he was crying and he said, "I'm home." Of course, I asked him what happened and he told me that he had failed an asthma screening and they had sent him home. Whether it was a false positive or some anomaly, I really don't know. Maybe Mr. Mazin knows, could tell me the real story someday. And Pete asked where Andy and I were painting, and he told us he'd be there the next morning. Before he knew it, he was set to go to Avon Old Farms for a PG year, and the rest is history. What always struck me about this experience was Pete's resilience and mental toughness. Other than that first phone call, I never remember him complaining about what happened or saying that he got the short end of the stick. He always looked forward and made the best of things. When he eventually landed at Yale, I used to love visiting him when I was home from break from Union College. I spent several nights sleeping on his dorm room floor and hanging out his apartment with his Yale buddies who were great guys. I still have a t-shirt from one of his fraternity parties from 25 years ago, and I think about him every time I see it in my drawer. The last time I saw Pete in person was when he visited me at our Vital Vines headquarters in Hamden during the summer of 2018. He gave me one of his patented bear hugs and looked like he could still play inside linebacker. At that time, he was in private practice. We traded legal war stories, and he told me how happy he was to see our family business had taken off. We talked about our wives and kids and reminisced about our company and our childhood. Of course, it never crossed my mind that this would be the last time I'd ever see my friend. The next year, Pete was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and he battled it like the warrior that he was. My family and I wrote him letters and sent him a couple care packages, and otherwise we just kept in touch via text. As I was preparing for today, I looked back over our final text messages, and I'll share our last exchange with you. I wrote, "Hey buddy, checking in on you. I drove by your house last week. I can still remember your Gramps watching every Yankee game. He was a good guy. Man, we had a great childhood, huh? Sports, painting each other. I probably could have worked a little harder in high school, but it turned out okay. Our VMB experience is still one of the fondest of my life." To which Pete responded, "Totally agree. I have regrets from high school like partying too much, but you're 100% correct. We had it good and VMB was formative and a ton of fun." So I'm thinking about today and preparing these remarks, other than thinking about Pete and honoring today's inductees, you could see it really made me reflect on my childhood and how lucky many of us in this room were to grow up in such a wonderful community. I'm really happy that although Pete is not here with us today, he will be part of the CHS family forever. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and congratulations again to all the inductees. May God bless you.
Hello. As much as I hate public speaking, I don't think anyone else really could introduce Bill Marocca better than me, since I am his daughter. Bill Marocca graduated from Cheshire High School in 1982. For his 4 years at CHS, he was a 3-sport athlete, playing football, basketball, and baseball. He earned all-state honors for football and baseball during his senior year. He still holds career home run records at CHS. After graduating from CHS, he went on to study psychobiology at Quinnipiac College. It was college then, not university, earning his BS in psychobiology in 1987. While at Quinnipiac, he was the starting catcher for the baseball team for 3 seasons, and he was elected captain his senior year. After Quinnipiac, he continued his baseball career professionally in the Connecticut State League. In 1988, he returned to Cheshire High School and was the assistant baseball coach for 10 years. While he was assistant coach, he was awarded the Connecticut Coaches Association Assistant Coach of the Year in 1997. In 98, he took over the baseball program as head coach. During his 21 years as head baseball coach, Bill amassed 250 wins, leading the Rams to the state playoffs numerous times, reaching the quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals in the Class LL state tournament, winning the state championship in 2018. He was selected by his peers to coach in the Connecticut Senior All-Star Games in 2007 and 2008. His 2018 state championship team was voted the top team in the state that year. Additionally, he was inducted into the Connecticut Diamond Club Hall of Fame for his accomplishments on the field during his career in that year. In his 21 years as head coach, he helped over 100 student athletes continue their baseball careers at the collegiate level. He earned his Master's of Arts in Teaching from Sacred Heart University and his 6-year degree in Instructional Science from Southern Connecticut. Not only did he dedicate his time to helping the CHA's baseball team, he also taught science at Dodd for 2 years and then chemistry at Cheshire High School for 6 years, helping to support student athletes in Cheshire. Bill and his wife Colleen, my mom and dad, have lived in Cheshire for the last 26 years. His 2 children, myself and my brother, are Cheshire alum, and his 2 grandchildren, my children, Sloan and Scotty, will also be Rams. Congratulations.
Well, that's nice when you can have your daughter introduce you for an award. It doesn't happen. I've been doing it for a long time, coaching, and I'm going to try to speak from the coaching perspective. We've had such great athletes and award winners here, and what they've done on the field, and I'll kind of talk from the other side and what we did as a coaching staff and what we accomplished at Cheshire High School over the last, for me, 31 years coaching. And it was all kind of by luck, and I have to agree with Mary. So I got the opportunity from Wayne Candela back in 1988. He hired me. I was getting married in 1988, figured I needed to make some more money. What can I do? I had a job that kind of allowed me to get away a little bit quicker, so I started coaching. But the tough thing was I had to convince Bert Leventhal to allow me to help him out since I drove him crazy for 4 years not too long ago. My brothers and I, we all played baseball, football, and we were very competitive, and we were very intolerant of people who didn't want to work hard. Our thought was, you work hard. You work hard, you get results, you have success, you become better, whatever you need to do. So he was like, oh, we gotta kind of calm you guys down. So he said, what? I'll let you coach with me. So I started doing it, and we had some talented players go through over those years. And it's really emotional for me to hear Mike talk about Peter, just those years in 93 through 96 as an assistant coach, and dealing with such an outstanding young person. I still talk about him to this day on how he conducted himself, everything that he did. We had a game, I think it was a quarterfinal, semifinal game in Southington, and we were playing New Britain, and the coach was kind of out of control, first base coach, and next thing you know, he's like picking a fight with Peter at first base, saying he's putting the tag on too hard. And one of the other assistant coaches, John Wakes, is like, tell Bert I'm going out there. You guys stay here. You can't get kicked out. I can. I'm going to go out there. He can't do that to Peter. Peter's the best guy of all time. And that was Peter. So to see him recognized tonight, and his dad's here and stuff, that's tremendous. I'm so happy for him. But back to the whole coaching perspective, I couldn't have accomplished what I did without great people around me. And I've got a lot of my coaches here, Steve and Mike Kelly was involved, and we've got just guys over the years that knew what they were doing, knew what I wanted out of them, and then I let them do their job. If I'm more of a catching guy, I need an infield guy, I need an outfield guy, or a pitching coach. So kind of try to do it in a way that if the players did want to go on to play in college, they would be prepared. So when college coaches would say, hey, so-and-so's doing great, he's really prepared. He understood what to expect when he got to the school. because now they kind of own you, right? Everybody that's here that's played at the college level, you know it's a full-time job. I don't care what level it is. So without the coaches and obviously the players, you're only as good as the players you put out in the field. And we had a lot of success. And again, you know, I'll go with Mary again with the U. We had ups and we had downs. We had some 3-17s, and those are tough. And so when you have those types of years, and then you got to go home, and you're still miserable, you know, and you have a supporting wife like I do and family, it makes it a little bit easier. Because it's tough. You know, it's everybody can be all great when they're, you know, they're going 17-3. But what do you do, and how do you handle it when you go 3-17, 5-15 in those types of years? Again, thank the Candyman, thank Bert for giving me an opportunity, putting up with me, allowing me to kind of grow as a coach, as a younger person. I started, I think I was 24. I think my brother was actually playing on the team at the time, so that was kind of cool for me. Thank you to the committee for thinking about me. I'm honored seeing all these other plaques go up. I was telling, I think I was telling my daughter, I've done this twice before, but it was because my brother was inducted a year, I think second time they did it. He couldn't make it because he had a game, and then when my dad was put in the founders. So it's neat. I'm very humbled to be up there with them and the rest of you that have accomplished so much over the years. And I'm just very thankful. Thank you so much.
Dan Ruddy for induction into the Cheshire High School Hall of Fame. Excuse me. As a Cheshire High School student, Dan was active in athletics, participating in football, wrestling, and baseball. Following CHS, Dan attended Villanova University, where he was on the rugby team, for which he served as a captain during his junior and senior years. As an undergraduate, Dan participated in a mission trip to St. Lucia. Following graduation from Villanova, Dan earned the Doctor of Chiropractic degree from Palmer College. At Palmer, Dan continued his service to the community when he worked at an outreach clinic in Budapest, Hungary. Since 2004, Dan has been in practice at Alexander and Brennan Chiropractic Center in Cheshire. Dan helped co-found the Cheshire Rugby Club with the desire to grow the sport of rugby in the state of Connecticut. He coached the program until 2012 and later served on its board of directors. Dan has served as an on-field physician for local rugby events and for Nutmeg State Games. Within the Cheshire community, Dan has devoted much of his time to volunteering, being a member of the Cheshire Alumni Field Turf Committee, participating in CHS Job Shadows and Career Days, and as a leadership mentor for CHS and college students exploring careers in healthcare. Dan coaches Cheshire Youth Baseball and Reds Travel Baseball, and also runs a ski and snowboard group at Mount Southington. Dan and his wife Tina reside in Cheshire with their 3 boys, Derek, Bowden, and Jacob. And now it's my pleasure to welcome Dan to the Cheshire High School Hall of Fame.
Here we are. Thank you all very much. It's a pleasure. Thank you, Judy, as well. Appreciate you making me sound a lot more impressive than Mike or Hitch probably would have. So that does help get me started here. I got a couple things jotted down. Obviously, I want to thank a lot of people. First, thank you for my boys. You know, it's nice when somebody talks about you in front of your kids and allows them to realize that you had a life prior to them. Maybe not as crazy as it is now, but there was still a lot going on, and sometimes it's good for them to hear that. I want to thank the rest of the board as well. It is an honor to stand up here. A little bit unexpected, but definitely a privilege, especially when you look around and you see all the great plaques up there and some of the big names that have come through, guys that I remember, women that I remember that have had a serious impact on Cheshire High. Really impressive, and initially, obviously, like the other inductees said, you start to think back about how your life has gone along the way and all the little accomplishments that you've had, and it definitely humbles you. And then you sit among legends like we are today. I mean, Steve the One Bowman was over there somewhere, and that's maybe right there. No, Pretty impressive to be listed on them. So, I felt, a little bit nervous to come up and be inducted. So I went through the list of inductees that were with me, and I came across Coach Maroka's name. And honestly, it made me feel a heck of a lot better, because now I realized, okay, they'll let anybody in. Big thank you to my wife, Tina. She's been a blessing for me. I appreciate her so much, her tolerance of, like Billy said, coaching is hours and hours, and I do a lot of it for the youth now. And it's a chance for me to give back, but it's also, it's a lot. It's very time consuming. And all those hours that I spend on the fields or game planning or whatever it is at night when I should be watching our shows, it's, she's supportive of that. And she's probably the best boy mom I know. She handles the sidelines better than anybody else I've ever met. Packing coolers, blankets, snacks, whatever it is for our kids that aren't playing or everybody else's kids that are kind of running around. I have 3 boys in travel sports now. We're all over the place. They're all going to be Cheshire Rams, which is awesome. I think she's got a few thousand hours left in her, which is great. A lot of that does depend on what she packs in the adult cooler, but it will. I'm sure she'll make it happen. So thank you very much. Love you. Need to thank Dr. Brennan. He couldn't be here today. I think he's washing his hair or digging a hole somewhere or something. He gave me the opportunity to practice with him in Cheshire. I'm a chiropractor. What a lot of you don't know is that I first met Dr. Brennan when I was a senior in high school. Ron McCreevy set me up with Dr. Brennan as part of the job shadow program my senior year. As a result of that, we kind of hit it off. We kept in touch. He hired me even before I graduated chiropractic school. He's like, hey, I need somebody to work, and here I was. So with that, I've now become the poster boy for the Cheshire High Job Shadow Program. Essentially, you make the right connections, and it can set you up along the way. So very happy to help out, mentoring students along the way. It's a big part of it. I enjoy it. I really do enjoy it. He's an extremely hard worker. He taught me a lot about patient care and how to never give up on someone that you truly feel you can get better. Aside of my own father, he's probably the hardest working guy I know on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. But he's a great guy, and I'm happy. I wish he could be here today, but he couldn't. Obviously, I have to thank my parents. I hope they know the amount of love and appreciation that I have for them and everything they do for not just me, but my entire family. They're amazing. They're everywhere. They're at every event they can be for my kids, my brother's kids, my sister's kids. I don't know how they do it. They were the first to impress on me that not just hard work is important, but also to keep moving. I mean, they're never in one place. I actually think they canceled a trip to Siberia, maybe postponed, so they could be here today. They're always somewhere, but today they're here, so appreciate them being here. I want to thank my mom especially. Her genetics have allowed me this massive structure and chiseled physique that you see here today. I went through high school, most of high school, at 5'0", just over 100 pounds. But it did make me who I am today. It was one of those things where it's not the cliche like little guy story where oh, you're too small, you can't do it, chip on your shoulder, got to prove everybody wrong. That's not my story at all. Mine's more of that, I call it the salmon swimming upstream. I was always kind of against the current, opposite the masses, unintentionally. But I was a little guy going through high school. I had to fight my way just so people knew who I was. It taught me to be a leader, probably be a little bit louder than I should be sometimes, but it definitely taught me to stand out from the crowd. And it was one of those things where you get through high school like that, and you just have to be comfortable with who you are. And I chose to play rugby at college and then in chiropractic school when everybody else was like, yeah, we know football, what the hell's rugby, And then I decided, okay, you know what, I'm gonna go to chiropractic school where everybody's like, why don't you just go to med school and be a real doctor, And then, later on, I choose to coach when, as Billy knows, it's a hell of a lot easier to sit on the sidelines and criticize the coaches, who actually wants to be a coach. But it does, I never intended to be kind of against the current or against the masses. But I reflect back on Some advice that my dad had given me way back when. I'm sure he doesn't remember, but basically said, he goes, whatever you decide to do, be strong and be a leader. I really try to impress that upon anybody I come across, my boys especially. You do need to have that mentality, in my opinion, to kind of get anywhere ahead in the world we're in. And through chiropractic, in Cheshire, my practices in town, I've had an awesome opportunity to work with so many great families. We kind of share stories, kind of what they're going through, whether it's the youth, the high school, the college athletes I deal with, or just the families themselves that have been through similar experiences that we have. There's a lot of interaction there, and you really get to know them. And to be able to give them little bits of my successes and failures and hear what theirs are, it just proves how amazing the Cheshire community is. And when you do have the opportunity, like most of us here have, to kind of give it back, it really does, it makes you feel good. It makes you go home feeling like you did something right that day. And I plan to keep practicing as long as I physically can and need to put these kids through college and everything else. But it is pretty amazing to be able to be a part of Cheshire and a part of especially Cheshire High the way I have been these last 20 years already. So thank you all very much. I appreciate listening, and more importantly, thank you to the board. It does mean a lot to be recognized. Thank you.
I think I got, yeah, that's it. So I'd like to welcome you all for joining us, and thank you, and congratulations to all of the inductees today. It truly is an honor. Today's inductees have all made such a positive contribution to Cheshire High School as students and staff, and their positive contributions to society as an alumni. Today, I am honored to speak on behalf of my friend, Rob Schaefer. I think it's safe to say that reading Rob's biography and his unbelievable accomplishments as head coach of Cheshire High School's girls cross-country cross-country team for over 40 years speaks for itself. I can read that for you, but I won't. Instead, I'd like to give you a glimpse of Rob as the person that I know. Rob is an extremely humble human being, never bringing attention to himself and always recognizing the accomplishments of others before taking any credit on his part for another person's success. As a matter of fact, if you were to congratulate Rob today on being inducted, his first response would probably be something like this: thank you, but I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the great athletes that I've had and the great coaches that I've coached with. I've known Rob for over 40 years and was truly honored to be asked to speak for him tonight. He also wanted my speech to be short. There'll be no comments about that statement, please. The impact Rob has had on his runners over the years has been immeasurable. He has connected with his runners, not only when they were runners at the school, but also after graduation, and also following their successes in life, both in college and in the workforce. His connections go far and wide. And through all of this hard work by Rob and his players, he still has had time to have some fun with his runners. He told me a story just a short time ago that one time when his players made the New England Championships, pretty tough achievement, Rob had previously told his players that if they made the New Englands, he would let them paint his mustache red. Well, they used apparently some other funny paint, and it came out looking like blood. And he had to go down to the hotel room and say, please, there has not been a murder up here. This is just paint. He believes one of his greatest accomplishments was his successes of one of his runners, Amy Baxter. I don't know, is Amy here today? Amy Baxter, who is not only in the Cheshire High School Hall of Fame for her efforts on a cross-country team, but also is in our nation's military academy at West Point Hall of Fame for cross-country. If you ask him, he'll tell you it was her ability. But we, his friends, know it was his coaching that was a big part of her success. Rob was truly humbled. He told me when he was honored as a cross-country Connecticut State Coach of the Year, when over 50 of his runners, former runners, friends, and family attended that ceremony in his honor. Rob has always tried to make his runners, as well as his friends, feel comfortable. A pretty good humorist, there's always a laugh or two or more when you're with him. His sense of humor has not dwindled over the years. But probably the most endearing thing about my friend is his ability to always find the bright spot of anything that has the slightest hint of controversy. Rob has that unique ability to find something good, and as a result, will make you feel good. With Rob, the glass is never half filled. It's always filled to the top with brightness and cheer. So to our latest inductee to the Cheshire Hall of Fame, Rob Schaefer. Congratulations and welcome to the club. I now present Rob Schaefer.
Just to let you know, I had to find somebody to speak for me, so I had to pay Ralph to do that. And by the way, Amy Baxter is probably a little angry at you right now because she went to the Naval Academy, not West Point. We'll just let that go.
Good thing you're not here. Beat Army.
I'm so honored to stand here in front of you, but I have to tell you, my early associations with Cheshire were not all that smooth. As a young kid growing up in New Britain, my mother always told me that if I didn't behave, she was going to send me to Cheshire, to the reform school, of course. And so I grew up terrified of the place. Luckily, though, I did not get sent, and nor did I know then that she couldn't send me to the reform school. So I never made that ride. But then, as I was hired, thanks to the help of a fellow University of Vermont friend, Jenny Allen, a great English teacher at Cheshire High, I was hired in the spring. But then I was fired in the summer because they cut my position. So hired and fired in like a month and a half. Luckily though, in October that year, somebody left, and so I was rehired. Luckily for me, someone left the English department in October, and I was rehired. That too was not the smoothest introduction to Cheshire, but now it's 47 years, and I'm still there. I can't believe 47 years have gone by. I have so many people to thank. First of all, thank you committee members, and especially Ralph for those kind words. Although lumping all of us in with a rocket scientist, Katie Stack, is a little bit disconcerting. I took the opposite tack from Greg. I'm a little intimidated, but I know Katie. She's so wonderful, and we're proud of actually her and everybody. Thanks to my children, Haley and Molly, my son-in-law, Matthew, and my girlfriend, Fernanda, for supporting me in everything that I do. And by the way, Matthew, just wave your hand because it's Matthew's birthday. I'm embarrassing like that. My English department was and is composed of scholars who are great teachers. And I got to rub elbows with so many wonderful people who helped me in 38 years of teaching Romeo and Juliet. I enjoyed my career so much, and I'm so thankful to these teachers and so many others with whom it was a privilege to work at Cheshire High. A warm recognition to one John Griffin, my department chair for many years, who hired me. I'm not sure what he was thinking, but he hired me. And he was truly like a second father to me. I cannot thank my school friends enough. Don Sattler, the aforementioned Ralph, Gloria Mosley, Diane Griffin, and others. Their support and laughter is something I have always treasured and always will. Thanks to my three athletic directors, the oft-mentioned Wayne Candela, the oft-mentioned Steve Trifone, and now John Parasino. By the way, if you see John Parasino, tell him that I mentioned him here, and because it's always good to butter up the boss a little bit. As cross-country coach, I was assigned the unenviable task of replacing the great Ron McCreevy. Now that was a challenge, but thanks to these great athletic directors, these leaders, who work harder than anyone can imagine for the betterment of the sports program, I appreciate all of them believing in me. As anyone knows, though, the real boss in an athletic department office is the secretary, and today's secretary, Sue Murphy, is second to none. Many thanks to all of my fellow coaches, some of whom I assist and some who assist me. Ken Yurley, Pam Gunnison, Steve Trefone, Alan Devarskis, Barb Hedden, Tim Galvin, Matt Hall, Sarah Redford, and Julie Trefone are all people with whom I've worked and work, and I've learned so much from working with all of them. And finally, a huge shout out to all of the great kids with whom I've worked at Cheshire High School. I could write a book about the amazing stories about kids struggling, kids succeeding, and kids growing up. Cheshire's children are amazing both in the classroom and on the athletic field. I am so fortunate to have made my career working with them. Now, one last thing. When I was in high school, we were in high school, class of 1969, there were absolutely no girls' sports available to any young ladies in my school. Not one. Cheerleading for boys who were competing for football was about it. Also, while in high school, I remember a day in my senior year, I was observing a girls' gym class. The young ladies were playing basketball, and according to the rules then, they played 3-on-3 on either side of the half-court line and not allowed to run up and down the court. They were also allowed to dribble the ball once, and then they had to pass the ball. I think the rules, of course, were designed to protect these darlings who could not survive a rigorous game. Now, these observations did not make an impression on me then, but later in life they surely did. So much of my focus now is to continue to empower Cheshire's young ladies and help them discover some of their worth through sports. I've made it a focus in my life. I think the appreciation of girls and women's sports is on the upswing, but there's still a ways to go, and I certainly hope you will all join me in this endeavor. So thanks to all, congratulations to all the awardees, my fellow awardees, both past and present, and please know that I am so humbly appreciative of this award. Thank you so much.
I'm honored to present our next inductee tonight, but I want to cut back to a couple themes that you've heard this evening. And some things mentioned by some of our inductees, but also kind of message of Cheshire. So obviously it would be a piece of land without the community that makes up Cheshire, Connecticut. And the understanding from a teacher and a coach, we learned from the people that came before us. We have amazing administrators and teachers and coaches that influence the students that come through our hallways. But that 2003 change with Mr. Trefone taking over that athletic position opened up the door for a couple of recent college ex-track runners to become coaches. And myself and Mike's wife, Kim, inherited an amazing team. And we inherited an amazing group of students that taught us just as much as we wanted to teach them. And kind of along the lines of what Nick mentioned earlier, I see students standing in the hallways looking at the individuals on these plaques. And it's a mixture of athletes and scholars, but absolutely amazing people. People that have made a difference in this world, people that have given back to Cheshire and the country, and they've even gone out of this world, as you've heard many times tonight. But I want to start backwards from a word of thanks, especially from a former science teacher. Katie is literally one of the greatest researchers in the United States and literally has a huge position with Mars. But she took time out of her development and her planning and her family life and her work to give back to the students. To see students listening to one of the most famous individuals they see on TV and hear about in the news is magical. It influences those kids, it gives them a bar to raise, it gives them something to work for, it gives them the chance to see somebody who came through those hallways. So, as a former coach of Katie's, I'm honored tonight. I'd like to go through some of her accolades, but more importantly, acknowledge her as an amazing person. Number one, she was a graduate of the class of 2004, and my wife told me I'm not allowed to do any rock puns, but you'll see her understanding and her science continuously goes through geoscience and astronomy. After earning her BA cum laude from Williams and Mary College in geoscience and astronomy, she went on to get her master's in geology from the California Institute of Technology. That then led to her PhD in geology from the California Institute. And that's kind of where the door opened up. From there, she was involved in 2012 Mars Science Laboratory, and she was involved with the Mars mission and the head research scientist with the Jet Propulsion Lab. Within the California Institute in Science Technology, this opened up more doors, and she was featured in Forbes as one of the 30 under 30 in science and healthcare in 2013. She's known to our students for her influence, but she's also a great leader. As I mentioned, 500 individuals are under her guidance for the Mars rover mission. The Mars Perseverance was something the kids at Cheshire High School felt they had a direct connection with for the fact that Katie had talked to them. So, as our newest inductee for the class of 2004 CHS Alumni Hall of Fame, I want to give my accolades to my former athlete and a former graduate of Cheshire High School who's always giving back, Dr. Katie Stackmore.
All right, thank you so much, Coach, for that great introduction. Thank you. First, I'd like to say thank you to the Cheshire High School Alumni Association Board for this incredible honor, and also to Dr. Judy Gallagher, Kate Corto, Sarah Mick, Mike Kelly, and Tom Lewa, of course, and others behind the scenes for making this event and my induction possible. The quote that I selected for my senior year profile in high school came from my dad, who's sitting back there. Knowledge is like a bag of potato chips. Once you get a taste, you'll always come back for more. Going back as early as I can remember, my parents, Gary and Maria, have fostered in me a love of learning and encouraged me to see the world as a scientist. Whether it was examining patterns of mold on bread in our kitchen, observing nature on hikes at Sleeping Giant, or running family taste tests, my parents have been my biggest and proudest supporters, and I would not be here today if not for their love and support. I'd also like to thank my husband, Jason, who wasn't able to be here today, who has made my career and family dreams a reality, and to my two boys, Garrison and Gavin, who challenge and inspire me every day, and to the 3 tables of family and friends that my mom surprised me with today. Thank you for being here for me and my family over the years, and for being my biggest cheerleaders from across the country. I wouldn't have become the scientist I am today without the support and encouragement of an incredible lineup of science educators here in Cheshire, including Ms. Ann Fozzie at Dodd Middle School, Mr. Jim Trefone, Dr. Stephanie Burtonshaw, and Ms. Julie Barker at Cheshire High School. I'd also like to thank Ms. Sandra Topol, who taught me how to read and write critically, and whose speech class strategies I've used at every science conference I've ever attended. I'd also like to thank Mr. Rob Schaefer, Mr. Don Sattler, Madame Marguerite Connor, and track coaches Barbara Hedden and Steve Trefone for slipping in life lessons that continue to guide me to this day in between the French grammar and the 200-meter repeats on the track. Lastly, I'd like to acknowledge the scientists and engineers of NASA's Curiosity and Perseverance Mars rover teams. This incredible community has supported me as I've grown as a scientist and a leader over the past 15 years, and they have made my contribution to some of humanity's greatest achievements in planetary exploration possible. Thank you again for this incredible honor, and congratulations to my fellow inductees.
Second, technology. I used to have a paper, now I gotta press something here. Okay, hold on a second. Mark Youngquist. Well, first of all, let me just say, I'm not a public speaker, I'm not a teacher. I was a police officer for 22 years. So my public speaking I learned my freshman year from my Spanish teacher, Mrs. Mosley. And so, mi caballo en su casa. Which I wrote on the board 27 times, which means my horse is in her house. All right, enough with the funny stuff. Give me a sec here. All right. Mark Youngquist. Every now and then, young boys, especially in Cheshire, used to play cops and robbers and army in their backyards, dreaming of a profession to come. But no one always would ever know that growing up in that corner of Wolfville Road and Country Club Road would lead to such a career. So in 1969, the country was in a turmoil. We were in the midst of Vietnam, and most students were looking for a way to go to college or somewhere else. Not Mark. Mark enlisted in the Marines. So that's just something to say about him. So he served 4 years in the Marines, getting out, back to his hometown, and he joined the Cheshire Police Department right out of the Marines, where he served, rising through the ranks, retiring as a lieutenant. But it was during this time, in the spring of 1981, and again, another tumultuous time, there was a shooting in Meriden
A young police officer shot a young man who had robbed a store. His wife was working at the Meriden Square, chased the guy out into the parking lot. He tried to arrest him. The guy tried to run him over, so he shot him. Who came to the defense of this young Meriden police officer was a group out of the South called the KKK. Well, the KKK staged numerous events around the state of Connecticut over the years. And one disastrous event in the spring had Mark think to himself, well, it's time we have a special response team. He took it upon himself to organize, get it funded, get it approved, and handpicked his selection for a special response team. Still drawn by action, Mark decided, okay, I gotta get back in the ballgame. He enlisted in the Army, in the National Guard. Well, lo and behold, we're in Iraq, Afghanistan, all around the world, and Mark is right in the midst of it. And the military police looking for some, in 2003, 2004, there were some bad guys in the world, and Mark was the one who was enlisted in tracking them down. I won't name them right now. Things came full circle. Mark worked for an insurance company doing fraud investigations, and but overall, Mark was a teacher. He taught us in the police department, taught us to be safe, he taught us to watch our backs, and the guy beside you's back. So there was no better teacher, leader, and friend from the class of '69, Mark Youngquist.
Okay. It's an honor to be here. I'm not sure how I got here, but I am, and thanks to Billy Glass and the committee. If you go through our program here, I'm joining 3 of my classmates who definitely deserve to be in this group. Dr. John Votto, Professor Gary Rose, PhD in political science, prior inductees, and unfortunately, Chief of Police, who we lost 20-something years ago, Gary Rose. Gary Rose, Gary Wahlberg, and Dr. Votto, we all sat in the same homeroom. We had our expectations, and of course, it's an honor for me to be joining them. And then I look at other prior honorees, and the honorees today, Mr. Maroka, I had your father or grandfather for earth science. He helped me out in the Marine Corps. I knew how to read a map and knew geology before I got in there, and it was a definite plus. And I understand your dad was also a jarhead.
No, he was not.
He wasn't a Marine?
No.
Oh. Oops. And then I look at some of the other honorees. There's Snorkel 2 back there, my cousin Don Youngquist. He was a prior inductee. And then I look at 2 other people, General Richie Formica. A general came out of Cheshire High School. We missed bumping into each other in Baghdad by a couple of weeks. I don't know if he did talk to me because I was only a master sergeant, he was a general, but I would have called him out for it. And then, of course, Barney Barnum. I grew up on the corner of Country Club and Wolfville Road. He was about 4 houses up. I was his parents' paper boy. His dad and my dad were firemen together. Barney he wasn't a mentor, but he was an inspiration to somebody who was graduating in 1969 in the middle of the Vietnam War. To know somebody who was that dedicated, honorable, somebody who was just an inspiration. And of course, Barney's in here too. Now, there's also Paul Pasqualone in here. My football claim to fame at Cheshire High School. Now, you got to picture me. I'm 2 inches shorter, 100 pounds lighter. And Coach McCleary decides you're gonna be on the scrub team and you're going to be tackling dummy for the varsity. Now, what I want you to do is go out there give him a forearm shiver and shed that tackle and get around him. Tommy Ibensteiner. He went on to play tackle for the Jets. I gave him the forearm shiver. He gave me a broken arm. Fast forward another 6-8 weeks. I wanted to be at least sitting on the bench as a sophomore, the Thanksgiving Day football game. That is big. That was it for Cheshire High, for me. Paul Pasqualoni dislocated my left shoulder. So fast forward, I joined the Marine Corps, and somehow everything got back together, and I'm in reasonably good shape. But everybody, thank you very much for this honor. There are some very distinguished people here in this group and in this booklet, and I'm extremely honored to even be considered to be up here. Thank you very much.